Placement rates and median annual wages dashboard is updated once a year. The state board sends us a file around December, sometimes January of each year for the prior academic year, and that's because they pull the data 9 months after the students leave the college. So this dashboard only contains information for students who actually left RTC and left the state board system. So if they transferred elsewhere or did something else, they're still enrolled, then they're actually not included in this database. And one thing, if you want to just get more information about what this database is, how the data is pulled, make sure you read everything on the Start Here tab. It tells you all about kind of the timing of the data pull, what this all means, the students that are included, etc. And one thing also to keep in mind is that because wage data tends to be very kind of subject to like really high wages that can influence averages and medians, for example, we're really careful with the smallest group of students that we report wages on. So according to the state board's kind of data standards, we only report information if there are at least 25 students that are in that group. So unfortunately, when you're looking for program by program wages and placement rates, sometimes we're unable to report that information because we just don't have enough students in that pool. So one thing we try to do is we actually combine 3 years worth of data to try to see if we can get to that 25 to get a little better idea of how the programs kind of fare in terms of labor market outcomes. So really all you can do on this dashboard is choose which program you want to look at, and then the information will be provided for you. So right now this is filtered for surgical technologists. You can see the placement rates here, the estimated placement rates, and then there are 3 different wage pieces of data here. The first one are their median hourly wages that are reported. And then you also have median annual earnings. And so this is based on, we receive quarterly earnings, and then we multiply that by 4 to get the annual earnings estimate. And then the median annualized wages are actually the hourly wages multiplied by 2,080 hours, which would be full-time, 40 hours a week, by 52 weeks. So that's kind of like if you're assuming that the person is working a typical 40-hour full-time schedule, that's what their annual salary would be. So as you can see, there is some discrepancy in this for this program, and actually for many programs, on the annual earnings versus the wages, and that could be due to many things. It could be that they're not working full-time. It could be that they have overtime. It could be tips, things like that. So there's a lot of things that could influence why the annual earnings and the annualized wages are slightly different. And this dashboard also gives you an estimate of the average hours per week that the students work. So just to show you what it looks like when there are not enough students to report data on, this is what you'll see. So there's just nothing here. So there's nothing wrong with this dashboard. This is just telling you that there's not enough information to report the wage or placement information. We can see the hours per week, but that's it. And there are also some where you might have, like here, the band instrument repair program. So we know what the certificate placement rates are, but there are not enough students in the degree group for us to report that. And then there are not enough people with wage data to report on that as well. So you're going to see a lot of gaps when you're looking at this dashboard, and that's just based on the nature of the data. So like here, this is engineering design technology. There aren't enough students with wage data that received a certificate to provide that information. So this is kind of the best that we can do to give you an idea of what the labor market outcomes are for these programs. And so once the next batch of data is received from the state board, which will be in a few months, then we'll be able to provide the 2013 to 2016 placement and wage data. So right now this is slightly outdated, but it's all that we have at the moment. So another way you can look at labor market information is to look at the Employment Outlook dashboard, which gives you kind of estimated wages in Washington. So that's another way to try to look at the outcomes for each of these programs.